To address them, I need to have an understanding of what the problems you are facing are. Having reviewed some of Pelham's community outreach efforts from recent years, I understand that the biggest challenges facing the community are the cost of taxes, lack of affordable housing, the rising cost of living in general, and the rise of financially focused scams. Our senior community deserves the dignity of staying in their homes they have spent their entire lives building without fear of being unable to afford their tax bill. As a budget committee member, I would commit to voting in the interests of cutting taxes where it would directly impact our senior community. I believe that innovative solutions must also be pursued to reduce previously established fixed costs. An example of this would be the energy aggregation work being done in the town to obtain a better electricity contract for all members who opt in. I would support similar efforts as well as the pursuit of grant funding wherever possible. It is my belief that we can have a level funded budget next year. I believe that certain costs and contracted rates will still increase, so we must be prepared to confront cutting costs in other areas to keep a completely level budget. So again, I thank you for listening to me, and you can reach out to me. I do have a Facebook page. It's Nikki Treadle, serving Pelham, New Hampshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gagnon.
Thank you. I want to first thank Council on Aging for having this event. This is excellent way to reach the audience. My name is Brett Gagnon. Some of my background, just so you know, schooling-wise, I did go through the Pelham schooling system. I then graduated from electrical engineering school, and then went on to get a master's in business. Professionally, I'm a regulatory engineer, so I specialize in reading global regulations, interpreting them, and then giving training and recommendations on them. Some of my passions, I've always been involved in town happenings. It started probably about 10 years ago. I've been the sponsor of many petition warrant articles to save town forests, to fight against large destructive highways, and being a co-founder of a few grassroots effort organizations. On top of that, I was lucky enough to be elected, before that, forgive me, I did work for the Conservation Commission in a supporting or nearby town. I then moved my way up, luckily, to Selectman, where I had the grand opportunity and learning experience to be part of both the Selectmen decision-making. I was liaison to most every board the town had, including a voting liaison to the Budget Committee. And since then, you know, I'm really finding a passion in giving back to my community. I think between my educational, professional, and volunteering history, along with my drive and passion, I have something to offer my community, and I humbly ask you to support me and vote for me so that I can give you that passion and do my best for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gagnon. Kimberly Abear.
I'm next.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm kind of going off script a little bit because I want to talk to you and tell you why I'm running for office. So not too long ago, I spoke at the Golden Girls event back a few months ago, and I shared with them, and I'll share with you now, that I spent roughly 30 years building security to know that there's enough money, that we have worked on our retirement, that our cars run right. My husband and I have a few businesses together. And after working on security for so long, it's important to me to work on purpose. And so my children are raised, and I'm blessed to be able to work with them. And there comes one now. I'm blessed to be able to work with both of our sons. And
sorry, I'm just trying to get your son's name tag.
oh, sorry. So I'm blessed to be able to work with both of our sons, and now I can have a little bit of time to devote to purpose. As everybody knows, I served as your state representative. I'm still serving, and I'll be in until the end of December. And so I feel that I have enough bandwidth to serve as your selectman, one of your selectmen, and finish up my state obligations and be able to advocate for Pelham. And I think that's where I will be able to do my best work. And that's whether that's at the state or the town level. I guess I would say also, you know, why I want to run is because I feel that I have the experience. experience with budgets, systems, regulations, building maintenance, people, which, by the way, is our greatest asset, real estate, training, and lean initiatives. And I know this, I know that no one gets out of bed in the morning and tries to screw anything up. Bad processes always beat good people. And so I think that I'll be able to identify good processes and lean things out. I know how to listen, I know how to communicate, and I know how to unify. And so I think that I will serve you as a good selectman, and I ask for your vote on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Danielle Massey Quinn.
My name is Danielle Massey Quinn. My 3-year term as your elected official on the Pelham Planning Board is coming to an end. I'm happy to announce I have signed up to run again for another 3-year term and would appreciate your vote for re-election. I am a 48-year lifelong resident of Pelham, born and raised, married to my husband David for 22 years. My son Devin is 28 years of age and a hard-working union worker, and I currently homeschool both my high school teens, Brianna and Ariana. On my free time, I volunteer my services as secretary for the Pelham Board of Adjustment, as vice chair of the Pelham Master Plan Subcommittee, as vice chair of the Pelham Agricultural Commission, as vice chair of the CIP Subcommittee, and as vice chair of the Pelham Well Ordinance Subcommittee. I offer a conservative approach. I will always support 1 acre, 1 home zoning. I believe in slow growth of new builds. If new builds have to happen, then they need to be in line with the character of our town. I would like to preserve the rural character of our town. I support farming, shocker, small family farming, and will always advocate for livestock rights. I will always advocate for one's property rights. As many know, our town does have an existing water issue over in the Sherburne Road area. It has been addressed and needs to be front and center when considering new builds. And finally, as your elected official, it will always be my understanding that the residents provide the voice for the town, not the developer. I am excited to be running for another full 3-year term to serve for you on the Pelham Planning Board, and I thank you in advance for your vote.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Abear. Mr. Abear, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and a little bit of background.
Thank you. I'm Garrett Abear. I moved to Pelham about 4 years ago. March 12th, 2020 is when I closed on my house. In that time, I've seen, the taxes go up in Pelham considerably. So I jumped on the budget committee to provide some input there. And I keep seeing the taxes go up. I know the school provides a significant, or takes a significant portion of those taxes. I think kids are the most important thing that are in our towns, or what we have, right? But on the same hand, I think fiscal responsibility is very important. So I'd like to run for school board, and that's why I'm here. So what was the other thing you asked me to input?
Just a few more. Anything else about yourself?
No, I enjoy being on, committees. I enjoy providing my thoughts and being there and providing a unique perspective. I'm 29 years old, so it wasn't too long ago I was a kid myself. Some people might actually still call me a kid. Some people actually still call me a kid. They call me kid. So I think I provide a very unique perspective that it might be difficult for others to provide. So that's why I'm running. So.
Thank you, sir. Philip Haviland.
Hi, my name's Philip Haberlin. I'll be relatively brief and just give you a short autobiography, and then when it comes time to answer some of the other questions, I'll give you some more insight into my my fiscal worldview. I'm running for a 1-year term on the Budget Committee, and I've served on the Budget Committee since 2020, and then a portion of the last season that just completed. I'm still relatively new to New England. I actually grew up mostly in Delaware and did a lot of my schooling in Indiana, and then my previous job was in Alabama, so I lived there for 7 years. And currently, I'm an engineer and work for the Federal Aviation Administration as a regulatory specialist on a variety of regulations that certify aircraft engines and propellers. And I moved to Pelham in 2016, and at the voters' discretion next Tuesday, I'd like to continue serving on the Budget Committee if they invite me back.
Thank you, Phil. Lisa Brown indicated she would be coming late, so we're going to go to Rebecca Cummings.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Cummings. I'm the other end of the spectrum. I'm not a kid. Nobody calls me a kid anymore. I would enjoy it if you did. I just turned 60, so I'm very proud of my gray hair and my experience. I have been a resident of Pelham for about 25 years. I worked at the Pelham Elementary School for 15 years, and I now work at Hampstead Academy in Hampstead, New Hampshire. It's a very small private school with huge ideas. I am the innovation coach there. I wanted to talk to you about what my why is. Everybody should have their own why. Every business should have a why, and our town should have the why. But mine is about our children, our future. Every dollar that is spent, every penny that is spent in the budget for the school board should be something that is clearly benefiting our students, whether it's training for our teachers or benefits for the students. It is our responsibility as the school board. Not a time to learn about it. It is a time to understand it and act on it. So I hope my mother, I have to say that my mother just passed away a year ago, and she was very active in the Council on Aging. And I believe that this would be a move that would make her very proud. But some of you may know Doris Harriman, and I think you'd know that she really cared about the children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Timothy Treadle, please.
Thank you, everyone. So I, too, like Nikki Treadle, I am one of the ones that have to leave early tonight, so I'm going to read my introduction, try to stay on track, and also address some of the questions that were sent out. I do appreciate the invitation to this event, and I also really appreciate some of the thoughtful questions that the Council on Aging provided us. I thought that they were very applicable given some of the challenges Pelham has been facing. So I started paying attention to school board meetings back during the pandemic, when we probably all saw examples around the nation of local school boards becoming what seemed to be like battlegrounds, right? Throughout this last year, I paid pretty close attention to the budget season of Pelham School Board, especially the work that was done on the teacher's contract. I was really impressed and pleased to see the level of detail and attention that the Pelham School Board gave to every line item in the budget. I've long been a public servant of various types. In the last candidate session, I did go through my background a little bit. I have spent 20 years coaching youth sports. May not look like it, but I have. I served in the Army. I was in for a little less than a decade. I volunteered in hospital emergency rooms, and now I work in pharmaceuticals. So volunteering with the school board, having 4 kids in the district seems like a very good chance for me to give back to the community. So it's something that I think is the right time for me to do. So I'm going to start going through some of the questions that were provided. I'm not going to read the questions explicitly, but my answers kind of go through what they are. So given the role of the school board in Pelham, I believe that the majority of the financial impact of this position would be focused on the budget. I do believe that the present school board in previous years have really strived to maintain as level of a budget as possible, especially given things like the fact that we just built a brand new school. But I do think there is a disconnect with the population in the town. Pelham citizens are growing more concerned that the budget continues to increase, albeit modestly at times, and I believe that they may not want a modest 1.7% increase, they want a decrease. So I don't believe this to be a negative thing. I think it might be out of necessity, but it is a voice that I want to listen to as a school board representative. So again, as was discussed in the deliberative session, the district, I do believe, also does a good job of maintaining a budget surplus throughout the year, which they return to the voters at the end of the fiscal year. So I believe that that is a great thing. I am glad to see that the school board does that, so that is something that I would want to continue on doing. I think to adequately represent the senior population in Pelham, I would take the stance that rather than targeting a level budget, I would actually try to think innovatively of how we can decrease the budget without compromising our students' education or our teachers. A great example of this that I saw a lot of discussion on in this year's school budget was the energy reduction project that the district has been engaged in. So they have contracted with, I believe it's like a consulting company, where they look at everything that the school district does, and they try to find areas where they can optimize, be more lean, and actually reduce costs. So I fully support this type of effort, and I would love to see where else this type of innovation can be implemented. I do believe that level funding would be difficult, given the increases we have seen in every cost category the last few years, but I do believe also with prudent spending and planning, it can be done at the school budget level. So my top 3 goals as a school board representative would be, number 1, to advocate for 100% of Pelham students, parents, teachers, and residents. Number 2, to decrease our budget wherever possible. And number 3, to strive for Pelham to be a desired place to work and live. So would gladly answer any questions that anyone may have. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Greg St. Jean, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Greg St. Jean. I'm a resident of Pelham for 49 plus years. My wife and her family, resident for 80 plus years. To say that we're vested, I would say that we are very vested into this town. We have properties here, and we don't plan on going anywhere. We have a couple of children in this town going to the middle school, 6th and 8th grade, which also is what prompted me to get interest into this school board position. I currently sit on the board for the Pelham Baseball as a volunteer, and I was looking to get more involved, and that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. John Russell.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Russell. I'd like to thank the Council on Aging for hosting this evening's event, for the invitation to meet you all, and for all of you for taking the time out of your day to meet all of us as candidates, and excuse us for having our backs to you. I feel so rude. But for the sake of the microphone, I'm going to look up there and pretend that I can see you all. I hope that's okay. My wife and I moved to Pelham 11 years ago. We have 2 children that were born here and that are currently in the school system. And because of them, I have a vested interest in making sure that our schools are the best that they can be. And not just for my own kids, but for all of our kids. I've enthusiastically coached hundreds of children throughout the Parks and Rec Department, as well as through Pelham Baseball over the last 10 years. I'm super passionate about being a positive role model for our children and making a positive impact in their lives. I do this through coaching, mentorship, and lessons in philanthropic activities throughout our community. Some of you may have heard of Andrew and Ava and Friends Charity Lemonade Stand. Those are my children. My 2 kids and approximately 20 of their friends over the last 3 years have raised approximately $13,000 that has been returned to our community through charitable funds as the Pelham Food Pantry, the VA, and several others. We're super proud of the kids, and there are great lessons involved in that. I've been on the school board for 7 months. I filled a vacancy back in August, and since then I feel as though I've made a great impact and that I'm adding value to our district. My main priority as a school board member is to ensure that our children are provided with a high-quality education, that they are seen, respected, cared for, and protected while we do that. I believe that we have a fundamental responsibility to provide them with that at a very bare minimum. School should be a place where our kids can learn, grow, and flourish, a place where they look back and smile because they've had such a great experience. I also believe that we should support our teachers. They too deserve a place where they can learn, grow, and flourish, a place where we support them to become better at what they do, so that they can encourage our children to become the best versions of themselves.
Mr. Russell, you have exerted your time. You've gone over your time.
Thank you.
We will come back, and you can
Thank you so
continue.
much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, we're now going to get into the question and answer portion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin with the question, first question for the select board. Everyone has the same first question, so we're going to start with Kim Maybeer, and then we'll go back around. The first question is, why did you decide to write for this office? You may have alluded to that in your presentation, but if you want to add to that, please do.
Mr. Moderator, I did cover that in why I was running.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Massey Quinn?
Why did you decide to run for this office? I initially did just talk about my 3-year term of the planning board's coming to an end, so I'm looking to run again. Initially, when I did want to run for the planning board, it was about 4 years ago, and what really prompted me to do so was there was a warrant article then in reference to livestock that initially took away my property rights for my livestock. So that's what really got me involved with the town items, was just property rights. The town voted that, they repealed it. I got my property rights back. I got more pigs and goats, so I was happy. I appreciate that. But initially, as well, my kids are older, and I wanted to do some stuff, volunteer for the town, to just do my service for the town.
Thank you. Mr. Abear, did you want to expand a little bit on why you're running?
Sure. So I think I said before that I think I offer a unique perspective when it comes to running for or being on the school board. The taxes are my main concern. Moving over the next dozen years or so, I have seen the projections of the number of students that are in the school system, and I see it going down, down, down. And despite my best attempts on the budget committee, the budget seems to be going up, and doesn't seem to. I think it will go up next year again, and it remains to be seen, right? But I think I have a unique perspective because I've been on the budget committee and I'm running for school board now, and I'd appreciate your vote and voting for those conservative values.
Thank you. Mr. Halborn?
Yeah, so it's really two reasons why I wanted to continue serving on the budget committee. I was, when I moved here in 2016 and I've been living here for a few years, I just wanted to find an activity where I could do some local public service and serve in a role that has some significant responsibility. And I think appropriating tax dollars in a town pretty much fits that description pretty well. Also kind of fits my analytical mind as an engineer. I'm comfortable working with numbers. So I think I have a skill set that seems to fit in with that. And then another reason was a little bit more personal. I just wanted to personally grow and do something that was outside my comfort zone. I'm not actually naturally a political person. I'm very introverted. I'm not an extrovert at all. I actually don't like being in the front of a room with unfamiliar people looking at me, but I feel that's a way to grow and become a better, more rounded person. So I see this as a mutually beneficial transaction. I can do something useful for the town that has a lot of responsibility, and I have an opportunity to grow.
Thank you. Rebecca Cummings?
So I decided to run after getting almost to the end of my career in teaching, thinking about I'm not done yet. I'm running because I care about the children, families, and the entire community of Pelham. And I feel like the children in this community are at the heart of our community. So I want to use all the experience that I have as an educator to help the school board, to help the citizens of Pelham.
Thank you. Greg St. Jean?
As I said earlier, I have 2 kids in the school system, so I've gained a great interest in what's going on. So my why is because I have a lot of questions. I want to know why, along with a lot of friends and family members throughout town that I talk to, also have these questions. Why the decline in enrollment? Why the great turnover in teachers? 117 teachers in the last 4 years. We lost 5 in the last month. Suspension rate has been going up. In the last 3 years, it's tripled. We're at or below academic level to the state in almost all 3 categories. I've gotten this information from NewHampshire.gov as a source if anybody was wondering. Again, a lot of talk in town. I coach teams. We know a lot of people. We've been in town for a long time. We run into these same questions over and over. So my why I'm running is I want to know why all these things are happening. And the biggest, why my taxes keep going up. And I want to get involved, find out the whys, so I can explain it and help better the future.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Russell?
Why did you decide to run for this office? I'm not far behind Rebecca in age. Unlike her, I'm not very proud of my hair. I'm holding on as long as I can here. But I wanted to do something meaningful, and I wanted to give back to my community. And like many others here, I believe that our children are important. They're our future. And I'm at an age where I start to think about my legacy and my purpose, and why am I here, and what am I going to leave behind? I didn't have a great childhood. I had an even worse academic career. What I did have were people that believed in me and that took me under their wing and changed the course of my life. And I want to be that person to someone else. And so it's pretty simple. School board was where I belonged. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Gagnon?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And to the last speaker, that was quite impactful. Thank you for that. Why did I decide to run for office? Well, on top of what I spoke about earlier, I believe our community needs young, educated, and logical thinking people to stand up, and that is no slight at Ms. Cummings over here. I want to be in your shadow and learn from you until you decide to retire. I enjoy the constant learning experience. I mean, I got involved maybe because of one or two things back in the day, but you stumble down the road of learning constantly about how the town works, how the school works, how the budget works, the political parts here and there. It's honestly fascinating at the end of the day. I think I can offer our community a very rare skill set, again, with my education, my profession, and my background mixed with my passions. And I want to be the one leading the effort to look at things differently, specifically with the Budget Committee. I want to ask the tough questions. I want to poke around the possibilities that may have not been explored before. I can't say I'm going to succeed in any of this, but I do want to take a different approach, look in different ways, and see what I can do to offer my services to this town if I were to be voted. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on to question number 2. How do you see yourself dealing with Pelham's senior population's issues that may come before the office to which you are elected, considering that seniors account for 1/3 of the population? And we'll start with Ms. Cummings, if that's okay.
That's great. I'm happy to go first on this one. I feel like I was immersed in the senior community for many years, taking care of my mom, who lived a mile from me, in what we called the annex behind the church, Beaverbrook Commons. But the seniors are instrumental in our community, in our growth. What I would love to see happen is to have the younger people more connected to the senior community through community service. So that is something I mentioned at the last meeting, where I want to help to find ways where the younger children can help the seniors in our town.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Cummings, Mr. St. Jean.
I felt this was kind of a tough question for me, but so especially on my wife's side of the family, 80 plus years in this town, they're very large, so there are a lot of seniors that still live in this town that are part of her family that don't have kids that go to the school, and they have to pay these. So I look at it as I want to help them by dissecting the budget to help either lowering it, leveling it, anything that I could do to help with the taxes. I know that in, just this past year there was a $2 million given back. I know in years past it's been a similar number. I also know that the majority of it, or a good part of it, is salaries, that unfilled positions. I'd like to see that if these unfilled positions aren't filled, it's been a year, 2 years, they're still not filled, maybe we take them away so we can help lower this budget. The school's been operating. Maybe these positions aren't needed. So that's my my hope and my desire to help with this in the school board is to help lower that budget.
Thank you, sir. John Russell?
This is a great question. As a school board member, I don't know how my position would really impact the seniors of the town, with the exception of budget. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that it is our responsibility to our taxpaying community to be fiscally responsible. I think that the school budget is fairly lean. There's not a lot of bloat in there at all. But like Rebecca Cummings stated, I would like to see some community service, and I would like to see seniors and our school community interact more, whether that be through volunteer work or scheduled programming where there's a senior and school day. So I'd like to see that, but budget and making sure that we are fiscally responsible and conservative at all times wherever possible is super important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gagnon?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I'm going to start this by a slight joke. My mother is on vacation right now, and she's saying in my head, they're not called seniors, they're older adults.
You are right.
She is a member of the Council on Aging, so let me tell you firsthand that over our dinner table regularly do we have discussions about, older adults' needs and then younger family needs. And so I have the debates that I expect to see at the Budget Committee over my dinner table with my family regularly. Do I hear the needs? Do I hear about the research, the statistics? Absolutely. So I'd like to boldly say that I may be one of the most well-educated people about the older adult population in Pelham because I sit next to and under my mother's wing, if you would. And there's a couple other things as well. I'm reading the question here again to remind myself. We do have a larger, older adult population. I believe it's something of over 50, is about 50%, give or take. And I think we should really understand that and take that to heart and address that. Do we need to encourage young families to come into town? Of course we do. There's benefits there. But do we need to take care of our own who currently live here and have a long family history here? Of course. And there's a balance there. Let's see, I would like to look at future potential or future initiatives, maybe offering more services, but obviously understanding the sentiment in the room about balancing the effectiveness of our tax dollars. We talked about in the past, the cemetery trustees may get more than the community center does. Kind of a strange fact. And offering some services based on the town's master plan to what the community center and the older adults are deeming as high priority. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hebert?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I hold my office hours at the Hobbs Community Center once a month, second Tuesday of every month. And when I get there at 9:30, there's always a table full of women and men saving a chair for me and saying, sit down, talk with us. And so I spent a lot of time talking about what matters. A couple of weeks ago, I was there and at a separate time on a Friday, meeting with two women that needed help for their sister. And they had a multitude of paperwork that needed to be filled out, applications, Medicaid, Medicare, and all over my head. And I'm looking through this and dragging through the internet on my laptop, trying to figure it out. And I probably was there about 2 hours, and I took photocopies of all kinds of paperwork and promised that I'm going to somehow organize it. And I strongly feel that this generation has been completely locked out of the world. Everything went to the internet. You call a phone number, and it's press 1, press 2, press 3, you're in a circle, and goodbye. And it hangs up. I spent hours driving around Pelham with my laptop trying to sign up third-party electricity suppliers for people. I've spent hours on the phone dealing with Liberty Electric with their upside-down computer system. No bills for 6 months, and then bam, here's a $3,000 bill. I've spent hours on the phone with housing authorities in Nashua, Manchester, all over the state, there is no housing for older adults. I hope Yvonne's watching, really. So there's challenges here, and I understand them and I get them. The Hobbs Community Center, I believe that, well, let me just start by saying we need to steady these taxes, right? I hear from people all the time that say, listen, I'm on a fixed income and the taxes keep going up. So I'm hoping that even we'll address the Hobbs Community Center, the need for having somebody to help with this paperwork. I'm not it. I actually sent somebody to ServiceLink to try to get the application filled out, but ServiceLink says, well, we can only help with the application, we can't help with the supporting paperwork. Okay, so you're doing half the application, you're actually doing like 1/10 of the work, and how do these people get this done? I don't know. So I believe that we need to contract, not hire somebody necessarily for all of this paperwork and help with some of these services. We need somebody that comes in once a week, twice a week, from these hours to these hours. And trust me, on my office hours, everybody knows what my office hours before I know what they are. Somebody's calling me and saying, "Hey, you're coming on this Tuesday is voting day. Are you still coming?" Yes, I'm still coming because I think it's important.
Representative Bear, your time's
I'm
up.
out of my 2 minutes. I'm here to help and I'm here to advocate. Thank you.
This,
I got going on a roll, didn't I?
I'm sorry.
I was listening, it's okay.
Right.
Same
Yes,
question, yes. So from a planning board's perspective, as I stated earlier, I did sit as the vice chair to the master plan, the new rewrite of the master plan, which, shocker, I'm a researcher, I have it right here in front of me. So when we were pulling together this new master plan for the town, Yvonne was also on that subcommittee. Yes, she did address older persons, and good for her. So I have older persons in my workforce, I mean, this stuff right here. So in any event, the feedback that came back for the new master plan, and I'll read it to you all, is that ages 40 population to our town. If you're 45 to 54 years old, you make up 16.4%. 55 to 64 years old, you make up 15.6%. 65 to 74 years old, you make up 9.9%. And over 74 years old, you're making up 5.2%. So from the ages of 45 to over 74, our town is at 47.1% for those ages, meaning that 30% is over 55 and over for our town. So with that, we brought this information back to the planning board. And we all came together and said, okay, let's think about zoning. So we currently do have a new introduced zoning article. I believe it's Article 3 Article 3, and it's called the Age Restrictive Housing Ordinance. So we're trying to reintroduce the proper housing back into our zoning so we can take care of over 47.1% of our residents for our town. I hope I answered that question, okay?
Thank you so much. Mr. Idbear?
Seniors, older persons, what was the other one?
Older adults.
Older adults. I'm looking for a pickleball partner. So if anyone needs a pickleball partner, see me afterwards. But one thing that in all seriousness, one thing that I tried very hard for to the budget committee was to be fiscally responsible, because I understand the challenges that come with housing. I have a lot of young friends myself that cannot afford a house at all right now. They can't stretch, can't even do it, just forget about it. If they're my age, they just say, hey, I can't do it right now, just because of where the interest rates are and where the housing is. So I totally sympathize with it. I hear it every day. So you can always count on me to be fiscally responsible. And one last comment. When I was on the budget committee, I wanted to actually raise how much money was going towards the Hobbs Community Center, because the stuff I saw you guys doing down there is nothing short of a miracle. Every time I went down there, both times, it was just stunning how much stuff goes on down there. And Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Have one, please.
Yeah, so I'll try to answer this from the perspective of a budget committee member, which is a logical thing to do. So as the population continues to get older, I would anticipate that we're probably going to need to fund some additional services that we don't have as much of right now, and that would probably be people like social workers and those that deal with psychological and physical issues associated with aging and navigating technology, paying bills, filing taxes, so on and so forth. And because as people get older, they often have mobility issues. You might need some drivers to move them back and forth between medical appointments, for example. Okay, so there's a catch to all that, of course. All these people cost money. So that has to be offset somehow if we're going to keep the tax burden manageable. So if we were going to go down this path, what I would probably support is that we need to be extremely austere with the other departments that make up the town, especially when looking at or when they propose staffing increases. So proposals to fund things like maintenance and cosmetic improvements and things that help other departments run more efficiently, but that they could probably do without or could be delayed for a period of time, those would probably come under a lot of scrutiny from me. And if they propose different additional staffing increases in those departments, I would probably put the burden for that very, very high to offset the services I would expect would likely be needed to help our older citizens.
Thank you. And with the indulgence of the audience, we're going to welcome Deb Ryan, who has arrived. And Deb, unless I'm putting you on the spot right now, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry I was late. I couldn't get out of work. My name is Debbie Ryan, and I'm running for re-election to the Budget Committee. I just served a term, and I also was the school board rep to the Budget Committee 2 different times as well. I also spent 12 years on the school board. The reason that I'm running for Budget Committee is I enjoy learning and understanding what's going on in our town because I really love our town, and to understand the budgets and all the ins and outs of what's going on keeps me in the know. But I also feel that I would like to be wise about what we do and how we spend. Right? It's sometimes putting things off isn't smart. Sometimes it is. And so my big thing is I'd like to keep the tax burden. Obviously, we always all want it to go down, but I don't know how realistic that is. But if we can at least keep it level and keep it from having a lot of swings, because we're taking care of things. I came through the budget committee, through the school board, in an era where at one point we left $13 million of state aid on the table because we voted no for something and lost by 58 votes. Another project, we left $1 million on the table for kindergarten because we said no, right? And unfortunately, if those things are needed and they have to be done, it costs more the next year, right? So it's just trying to be wise with what has to be done, what's needed, and what's best for this community, with an eye to keeping the tax rate level. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kate.
Okay, question number 3 is going to be a unique question for the individuals, elected office that they're running for. So there'll be different questions for the different, different departments. So the first question is going to be going to Ms. Hebert, the Select Board. As a member of the Water Commission, please explain how someone whose water supply is adversely impacted by MBTE and other contaminants receive assistance in remedying this problem. Is there a cost? And if so, will the town as a whole be affected?
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Moderator. So we'll talk water, and I'll try to be within my 2 minutes. So MTBE was an additive that the gas companies like ExxonMobil put in their gas. They stopped putting that in their gas, and MTBE is no longer an issue. PFAS, however, is an issue. VOCs is an issue. And so the question comes, where do all these come from? They come from landfills, incinerators, fertilizer, firefighting foam. And so you might say, well, we don't have firefighting foam here. Well, it gets into the water and it flows through, right? So PFAS is everywhere. It's in even the coats that our firefighters wear. And so that's a challenge too. And just even in the State House last week or 2 weeks ago, we were discussing and voting on eliminating PFAS out of all fabrics and chemicals coming to New Hampshire. So it's a very serious issue. I know, and I hear a lot of the time people say, well, I don't need water, I have a well. I understand that, I do. But it's imperative that we bring clean drinking water while we can. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to sign up. Right now, the plan is to get it in 3 phases throughout the veins of Pelham. So 38, Mammoth Road, start to just, if you look at a map, right, just those major veins, getting the water here is imperative. A question I get a lot is, well, will I have to sign up? Will I have to pay for that line to come to my home? And the answer is, if the vein goes by and we're hooking up that area, most likely yes. There are grants that they are giving out to each homeowner to connect from the main line to the home. Right now, the challenge is that even as Pelham is growing, that when we do lay water pipe or we do run water pipe, even if it's from a community well, that we're making the pipes large enough to take care of fire service, sprinklers, et cetera, et cetera. And I see Mr. Cronin moving over here, so I think I've extended my 2 minutes.
30 seconds.
30 seconds more. We filled out 2 grants, and that's for sourcing of water, and they're strategic grants. They're to plan, right? So they're sourcing, and then where we're going to lay the pipes. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the Selectman's office, we'll be meeting with Weston and Sampson, our engineering firm that we hired in Pelham, to go over their review. Their final report for this part of the grant is due in June. Then we take that and we go apply for the big grant. The state is being very generous right now with the funds they just got. And we're going to get right in line with Londonderry, and I'm going to advocate. And you guys know how much I advocate. When I say I'm going to get in the fight, I get in the fight. I'm in the fight for water, and I want to make sure that we get it, and I want to make sure that we're not hitting our tax bases as hard as we could, to make sure that it's even Steven with Londonderry. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that information. If anybody has any questions about the water, they can get a hold of her. The next would be the question for planning. As a member of the planning board, please explain how the town would be able to go about providing more affordable housing options for the residents and future residents of Pelham.
Well, in reference to plan, that's a great question, because we want to make sure everything is, we want to be able to afford our homes, right? But as a planning board member, I can't say, hey, Mr. Developer, as much as I want to, make these things affordable. They're going to say, no, I can't do it. So as a planning board member, what do I look at next? Well, I want to look at what's going on at the state level. Currently at the state level, we have the state looking over legislative in reference to the workforce housing, which we already do have in our zoning, which is, we have it in our zoning, so that's something. We're there with some type of affordability. And then they're also looking currently at the state level in reference to what's called high-density housing, which, it could be good, it may not be good. That depends on how we're going to calculate those builds onto the soil factor for our zoning. So at the end of the day, it's challenging to see what we can, as a planning board, I can make for you to be affordable. But we do currently have what's called accessory dwelling units. We have detached and attached. Those are, we've seen quite a few applicants come in front of us with that. A lot of families in our town, they don't want to leave Pelham. I know, I'm a 3rd generation. So it offers, an ADU is an offer, it's like a 1,000 square foot in-law style type living, where we're finding, it's working out quite well, because we have the grandparents who still want to be with the children, who want to be with the grandchildren. So what they're doing is they're giving their larger home to the child to raise the grandchildren, and then they get to maybe go to Florida, come back, go in the in-law, and still be with their family. So we're working on it. We're doing our best. But when it comes to planning, everything starts at the top with the state, and then it's implemented through our zoning through you all.
Okay, the next question is going to be for the Budget Committee members, so I'm not skipping Mr. Avery, I'm going to budget, and then we'll go back. Okay, Mr. Haviland, since high taxes are a major concern for Pelham seniors, do you see a path for level funding the town budget next fiscal year?
Okay, so first I'm going to just editorialize a little bit on that question, then I'll actually answer the question directly. I noticed that the questions purports to be concerned about high taxes, and that's the first part of the question. And then the second part of it only mentioned the town budget. There's nothing here that asked about whether there was a path for level funding the school budget. So that's both, I don't know if that was accidental or deliberate, but the fact that it's missing is both notable and relevant.
It will be next question to the school board.
Okay. So I have a real estate tax bill. I'm sure a lot of you get these every July and November. And this is the one that I have for November. The town is $2,746. This is just for me. Of course, you all have different numbers. And then the school is $5,260. So that's almost twice what the town is. So almost 2 times as many of your property taxes are going to the school as opposed to the town. Okay, so to answer the question, level funding, I think it's possible, but it's probably very difficult. The budget committee is not always composed of the same people, and some people have a conservative worldview and some people don't, and that's okay. And there's many bottlenecks that can overturn reductions or proposed reductions to the budget, and some of you may have seen that in this past season. There's reconsideration, the deliberative sessions, and then, of course, through direct democracy and the vote next Tuesday, the citizens can decide which number they want, a default budget or the proposed budget. That being said, I am committed to keeping increases as small as possible if I'm unable to level fund the budget. And under certain circumstances, this is both for the town and the school, I would actually consider proposing a budget that's below the default budget.
Deb Ryan, you're next.
On the seat. Yeah, well, the town budget, I believe, went up 2-point-something% this year. And over the last, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I know that the town budget has exponentially increased higher than the level of the school budget. So, not by much. It's a very prudent and very smart town budget, and I believe that they look at it very strongly and with the fine-tooth comb and are cognizant of the taxpayers. I've never felt at a budget committee meeting or a school board meeting that any town official, town department head, school department head has ever wanted to be frivolous. And I've, like I said, I sat on the school board for 12 years and a few years here on the budget committee, so that's a big chunk of time. And I've never seen anybody be frivolous. This town has always been very conscientious about the budget. We just need to be careful when we parse that the school budget's double what the town budget is. Well, the size of the school district is probably double the size of the town based on employees, on everything, right? And I also think we can't always keep going after the school budget as the source of our problem here. I don't think we have a problem. We have a state problem where we're taxed. In order to pay the taxes in this, it's done on property taxes. So that's not a Pelham problem, that's a state problem. So when the source of the funding is very limited to one area, it falls on us homeowners. And the funny thing is, not funny thing, I'm a senior too, right? I mean, by some standards, no, I'll be 58 next month, but my husband is 63 years old, right? So we're looking into that at that juncture in our lives where we're gonna be heading towards retirement. And it is a little scary to think, geez, what if I paid...
15 seconds.
15 seconds. What if I paid my house off and now I have to pay this high tax rate? But I also believe strongly in a robust community, right? We have to have young people, we have to have old people, we have to have schools, we have to have everything. So we need to be wise about how we do it, but those things are what make a strong and healthy community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gagnon?
Thank you. Let's be honest, this is a hard-hitting question for anyone in the audience or watching at home to think that we're going to stand up here and have the answer to this is unrealistic. But let's speak to that a little bit. I sympathize with fixed income, and I look to the audience, and I look to the camera for people at home as well. It's tough. But the fact of the matter is we have inflation. Costs of living have gone up both for you as individuals and for the town as a department, as an entity, and same with the school. Some of the contracts we have for our employees are contracted in for multiple years with set increases. So we really can't change that. So what does that boil down to? If I had to answer this question as simply as possible, the choice the community is left with is either level funding or losing. Level funding means losing services. Sorry for that stumble. So if we were to keep level funding, we would have to lose some type of services from my point of view, at least for right now. Would I try to avoid that? Of course. But to me, that seems inevitable. So either we have to somehow absorb inflation the way it is, because it's just the unfortunate part of our economy right now, or if we want to level fund, we have to decide what we're willing to lose more of. Hopefully that isn't community center services to all of the individuals here tonight and watching. But lastly, I can tell you that although that answer may not be as salivating as what I could have said incorrectly, I am, as an individual and through a community power committee that I'm chairman of, trying to help you lower your individual cost. Can I guarantee it? No. But I'm doing my darndest, along with my committee members, to enact community power in Pelham. We have a committee, warrant Article 9. If you vote yes, I'd appreciate it. And that's going to help us to search for better prices for all residents in town. So although we may have a tough time adjusting budgets in town, I will work any which way I can in the committee or outside the committees to find better pricing for all of us to help ease some of our pains. Thank you.
Okay, school board, was that with Garrett A. Bear? Again, just following the budgetary questions. Since high taxes are a major concern for Pelham seniors, do you see a path for level funding the school budget for next school year?
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think the answer is just straight no. There was a time 2 years ago, you can ask Jim for the video, I tried to cut like $300 out of the school budget, and Phil could back me up on that. The answer was no, can't do it. It was for like, I forget, tables or something.
Pretty small.
Yeah, but the answer was no. So again, I'm here for the school board, and I'm interested to see what we can do to cut at the school board level. I tried on the budget committee, but yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks. Ms. Cummings, same question.
Okay. I'm still thinking about the last thing, because I'm a futurist, a problem solver, and I'm thinking about what Kimberly Bear said about the lack of help at the senior center. I'm thinking about the fact that high school students have to do community service hours. I'm thinking about the fact that couldn't they go give tech help to the seniors? So just to give you an example of what happens in my mind when I hear a problem, that's the way I think. So given that, as a school board member, I am a team player. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to trust people that are much better at business than I am as an educator. I'm going to learn from them, but I'm also going to remember that inflation is everywhere. It's not just a problem in the schools that school budget is more, it's that everything is more. So I want to work with the team to figure out the solution.
Okay, thank you, good answer. Mr. St. Jean?
My answer is, I'm not sure. But much like the A Bears, I'm in manufacturing. I'm a manufacturing manager. And every day we're asked to make more for less. Keep the quality, but make more. So you have to figure it out. You have to figure out how to go lean. You have to figure out how to stay above everyone else. A lot of times when you do that, you can kill the morale for your team. So I think that's something that you can't do, especially on the school level. If you kill the morale for the teachers, it trickles down to the students. But I do feel there are areas in the budget or in the system itself that can be cut. There are always these places to cut, always. We do it in manufacturing every day. So that's how I would come and look at it. I would also look at if staffing levels are high, you lose by attrition, and don't keep them on the books like we're doing now.
Earlier, okay.
There's many, many ways to do it, and that's my approach is to dissect what's going on and go at it little by little.
Okay. Thank
Bring
you.
it down. Thank you.
Mr. Russell, same question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to ask the room a question. Does anybody wake up in the morning and say, I'd like to pay more taxes? We all live in town. The school board meetings are televised, they're public. We often don't see many of the public attending the meetings. We often don't hear from public attending the meetings. The school budget increased by 1.7% this year, which is less than half of the town budget. Our homes have been assessed to who knows how much more than they were 2 years ago. We're paying taxes on those. Our electric bills have doubled or quadrupled. I don't think that anyone in town or on any board sets out to increase or spend frivolously or add bloat to our school budget. And so I do think it's unfair to point the finger at the school budget, especially if you haven't been to a meeting, especially if you haven't witnessed every line item and how people agonize over the line item. So look, I'm not independently wealthy, and I'm not a politician. I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a community member, and I don't want to pay high taxes either. The fact of the matter is that the school board and the district and the administrators and the budget committee, they agonize over every single line item, and people are lean, and they do their best, and I think that there is really, really good intent. In terms of student versus teacher, right, we're capped at a certain amount of students per teacher, and so to not fulfill headcount only impacts negatively towards the kids in our system, and that's not fair. Someone paid for my education, someone paid for everyone else's public education in this room, and I think that we have a fundamental responsibility to do the same. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much. And I just want to add on, we ask these questions primarily because, Mr. Cronin and myself both chaired the budget committee for many, many years. So, we come from a place of love and
so,
understanding.
Mr. Moderator, I do as well, and I didn't mean my answer with any disrespect at all.
It wasn't taken. It wasn't taken. Okay. Okay, the final question, and we'll start with Ms. Ryan. What are 3 goals you wish to accomplish while you are in this office?
Well, one of the things I like to do is, I get this sense that there's us versus them, tension, whatever, and when I got on the school board, that's how it was, and we worked really hard to alleviate that and just do what's best for the community. So I would love to try to always work together for the common good. The other thing I'd like to, I mentioned before, was keep a good balance between with the things that we have and the things that need, and maybe get rid of some of the things that aren't necessary. I think other people have mentioned it as well. If we're used to having, this playground or this something else, or the things at the senior center, to get rid of them would be painful and hurt if it's something people need and or enjoy. So I don't think that we need to unless the voters say, you know what, I'd like to get rid of that because I feel like we need to feel some pain on this, then I'll agree with the voters. So I want to keep a good balance. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And of course, my goal is to keep it as level as possible. Long as we're not being penny wise and pound foolish. I don't believe in putting something off because that is needed, because we don't want to pay for it, because it's just going to cost us more in the long run. And like I said, my history on the school board was not because we did it, but because the votes went that way. People said no and left money on the table, and it cost us taxpayers money in the long run. So I never want to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Mr. Gagnon.
And remind me, Mr. Chairman, this is the 3 goals we want to accomplish in office, correct? Thank you. So first and foremost, although maybe small, I think it's quite important that as an individual and as a member of a group, I want to foster respectful and logical debates where everyone gets to speak calmly and we all walk away from our duties in good spirits. Although most people in this audience and listening at home who may not have taken part in these committees think that should be normal, it unfortunately isn't always. So I think that needs to be said out loud. Secondly, and more to the point, I want to ask questions and look at certain sections of the budgets that others may shy away from. I want to make sure that all departments are, if need be, sharing in the cuts equally. And I don't mean equally as financially equally, like the community center gets cut $10,000 and so does the police station, but percentage-wise. If there has to be cuts, each department should feel it in a similar fashion. And then lastly, if there is time or money to prioritize, I think it's vital to prioritize topics that are highlighted in our master plan. Through my past experience as a selectman in neighboring towns, it's sometimes unfortunate we spend so much time and money to create such a phenomenal document through professionals that give guidance and step-by-step instructions about where the town should go and how, and it get ignored. So if I have any control over that in my position, I would like to help the budget committee with cost savings, but to really focus on what does the master plan say, because that's what the people want, and let's follow that for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Vader.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My 3 goals, I'm going to modify the question just a little bit. And I just want to acknowledge that I'll be 1 of 5. And I hope that the goals that we meet when, if elected, that I can collaborate with the other 4 people I'll be working with, and that they'll be our goals together. You think about where Pelham sits. Geographically, we're caught between Dracut and Nashua. I fully intend to support the fire and the police, 100%. We have a lot of problems around us, and we have a lot of people running right through Pelham. And I want to thank Chief Ann Perriello and her entire team for constantly being on guard and watching our back. I get a police report because of the Evergreen. I get the police report every single week. And I look at the names, and I look where they're coming from. They're not from Pelham. So my number 1 goal is to support the fire and the police, and I know that the other 4 people I will be working with will do the same. Fire department, EMTs, I stood at deliberative session and I asked to have that money put back in for EMT school, and the voters agreed, and so I was happy to see that. Fiscal responsibility, I believe that every single department, every single part of the town, school and town, should run on ratios. I run my business on ratios. Every single Friday, I get an electronic spreadsheet, and I can look at it and know, are we up, are we down? Where are the sales, where were the expenses, the payroll, the number of people. I will never, ever, and I hope I never regret saying this, I will never, ever vote for a grant that we get that's not a one-time grant. I don't like seeing grants come in to the town that after the money runs out, we've just bumped up our tax base because we have to keep it going because it made everybody happy. I think it's imperative that when we apply for a grant, it's something that is an asset to us that we can maintain, but that that we're not committed to at that level of what the grant was. I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Representative Baker.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep going. Ms. Bessie, please.
Okay, 3 goals for the planning, on the planning board. Well, the first goal and understanding I learned my first year on planning was that you're my boss, I work for you. So with that, check. That's understood right there. My second goal I would like to at least attain this year is that I'm currently sitting on the well ordinance subcommittee. So I'd like to see a strong well ordinance put together. We do have a hardship area in Sherburne Road, so I'd like to see those residents have some type of something to help them with their water issues. And I think my third goal to work on, follow suit with Mr. Gagnon's, is the master plan, the new master plan. We do have what's called existing conditions. That way, this new master plan isn't just dropped by the wayside and forgotten about. So we are currently in the process of setting up another subcommittee that I'll probably volunteer on, they'll be like my seventh, to make sure these conditions get satisfied and follow through, and that's over to a 5 or 10 year term. So those would be my items. But you're my boss. I work for you.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert.
You know, I've been sitting here thinking about my answer. I don't know if I have 3 goals, but I'll tell you what my goal is. I want to join the school board. I want to listen. I want to learn about what's going on. You know, I've said it a few times, and I'll say it again. I think I have the most applicable experience. I was in college, and I took an online class just a year ago, and I took, you know, classes in person. I think I understand a lot about the learning process. I want to approach the school board in a conservative manner. I know we have the taxes. I think it was said that the school or the town is, how did we put it? The town was less, it's been less increase. Is that how we put it? I don't know. But the school has gone up every single year for the past 5 years, and enrollment keeps going down. And my focus is to arrest the increases that have been going on, because every time I open the same tax bill that Phil has, I do one of these. So I guess I don't have a goal besides doing the right thing and listening and learning and seeing what we can do to, you know, arrest the budget from continuing to go upwards.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hadley.
Okay, so goal number 1, spending control for both the town and the school budgets. Specifically, I'm going to scrutinize very heavily requests for staffing increases. I tend to be somewhat more sympathetic if they're in departments that would be targeted primarily for those citizens that are getting older. With that caveat, other staffing increases I would give a lot of scrutiny for. The reason for that is labor is expensive and it's a recurring cost. Also, I've noticed, and probably other people have noticed too, that it's much easier to add positions than it is to cut them. If once it's decided that a position is not needed anymore, even if you amass a lot of data to try to show that, it's very difficult to cut those positions from the budget at that point. So I'm going to scrutinize that heavily. Goal number 2, regarding the school district specifically. What I would like to see, there's a lot of concern about salaries not being keeping up with other school districts and losing a lot of teachers and staff because, or at least in part to that. I would like to see the average salaries for the school staff to go up if and only if the number of staff members in that district drops by an amount that exceeds that. So just to put out some numbers, I don't know if these are the right numbers. All right, if the average salaries went up 10%, but the staff shrank by 20%, you might very well be able to educate the students appropriately and also drive down the cost per student, which I would regard as a good thing. So that's goal number 2. Goal number 3, now we're in an election year nationally, and a lot of people are saying it's going to be very divisive. That may or may not be true. I suspect the upcoming budget committee discussions regarding the towns and the schools could also end up being very divisive. We have people with different worldviews, different ways of approaching the budget, different priorities, and what I'm hoping, and I'm holding myself to this too, not everybody else, it's all of us, that we can maintain a professional atmosphere and be able to consider each other's disagreements and then come to some sort of compromise, or at the end of the day, even if we don't agree on everything, that we can maintain a professional attitude all through the deliberations.
Thank you. Ms. Cummings, please.
Hi. So I think last count I had 156 goals, but I did narrow it down to 3. So I took notes and I'll read my 3. The first one is to bring my creativity, expertise in education, and innovative spirit to the board to be a valuable collaborator. Number 2, to be the voice of all the children as we on the board remain frugal as we have to reimagine the future of education. And number 3, to make the voters proud of their decision to make a difference with Rebecca.
Thank you so much. Mr. St. Jean.
Goal number 1 would be to answer and solve some of the whys that I had, for not only for myself, but for fellow residents. 2 would be a safe environment for all students, staff in the district. Happy teachers, happy students. Try and build the district back to what it can be. And 3 would be doing more with less to help out the residents in the tax bracket.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My first priority or goal would be teacher retention. Mr. St. Jean made reference earlier, we've lost approximately 30 teachers per year in the last 4 years, which is an alarming number. That disrupts the students. It costs more taxpayer money to onboard new teachers and get them acclimated than it would to simply increase wages. Keeping our teachers and maintaining strong relationships with our students is only beneficial to our district, and also making Pelham a great place to work that trickles down from our administrators to our teachers, students, and mainly our community. I'd like to see our academic ranking improved throughout our peer group in the district, and improved test scoring. as well as continuing to provide a quality education for our children and better prepare them to do amazing things in the real world. And lastly, again, keeping budget low. We're halfway through the bond on the high school. We're only 2 years into the bond on the memorial school. We voted on those. We voted to approve those, and those impact our taxes. But again, I think that, we need to remain lean, and I will work hard to be fiscally responsible while not negatively impacting our students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we're going to welcome Lisa Brown, a candidate for the Budget Committee. Lisa, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Hello, thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Lisa Brown, and I'm sorry for being late. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I couldn't get to work, and I got here as soon as I could. And I know we're talking about goals, so my goal is to learn and to become active in the town. So I've been here for over 30 years. I raised my family here. I have my experience of being fiscally sound. I can bring that from my own personal life and being able to raise 2 children on my own and still stay in this town and keep my home. And we used to be very active when my kids were young. I did a lot with the League of Women Voters. I helped build the playground. I was on Parks and Recs, and I coached in all kinds of things in life. I had to take care of my family. So now I have time. And this opportunity, this was a seat that was open, and my goal is to learn more about the ins and outs of town and how to contribute to town. So that's really my goal, because I like to be of service. I plan on retiring here, so I am very interested in taking care of seniors, because I'm on my way. I think I'm there, actually. I'm on the edge. And so that's it, really. It's really more of a desire to serve and to learn. So I don't have a lot of specifics to offer, except I consider myself fiscally responsible, and I care about the community. And I'm intelligent, and I'm a quick learner.
If I may, I'm going to rephrase a couple of the questions, if that's all right, Lisa. You alluded to the office. Why did you choose this office rather than some of the other positions that were open?
Well, I felt like the Budget Committee, you really get the chance to really see what's going on. Because everybody, my understanding, everything comes down to money in this town, right? But also, I just felt like it was a good way to really see the inner workings of the town. I didn't think it was responsible for me to be on the school board. My children are grown, and I participated in the school board, public school system here till 8th grade, and I sent my children out. So I didn't feel like that would be really appropriate for me. And I felt like the Budget Committee's place was a place I could start out and learn. And I felt the time that that was needed from me, I could meet that need. So it was really more just jumping in.
Okay, and one more, if I may. How would you see yourself dealing with the senior population issues of the town?
Well, like I said, I'm planning on being a senior in this town. And I don't know specifics. I was, I know there is some, some adjustments to the tax base as we age, right? So I don't know the specifics of that. However,
As I do. So now you might be wondering what distinguishes me from other people. Well, that's a little bit harder to answer, but I guess if I had to select one thing, I would say that I try to make my decisions data-driven as best as I can. I try to avoid ideology, and I try to avoid making emotionally driven decisions. I think that's the most appropriate way to make almost all decisions in life, especially ones on a budget committee. Frankly, I've gotten to an age in my life where I don't care what other people think of me. So why is that important? Well, it's actually very liberating. It means I can do whatever I think is the wisest thing to do, including things that might be politically unpopular. I don't mind getting, well, I do mind getting hate mail, but I'm a big boy and I can take it. And if those of you that elected me, if you have a problem with something that I did, you can send me an email and I'll usually write back after a period of a few days and thinking about something that's very detailed. You may not agree with me, but I will answer your questions. So if your fiscal worldview and the decision-making style is aligned with the way you see the world or the way you see this town and the way that decisions should be made, then I would ask that you consider voting for me next Tuesday.
Thank you. Ms. Cummings.
In closing, I just want to point out that everything that I have done in my career, I have done with purpose and tried to make that work very meaningful. So I would apply that spirit to my position on the school board if elected.
Thank you. Mr. St. Jean.
First off, I'd like to thank you all for having me. Secondly, as you all know, I'm not a politician. I don't have the gift of the gab. The ones that do know me, they know that I'm a hard worker, and I give 110% to whatever I commit to. I'm committed to doing this. I'm committed to the students, the staff, and the taxpayers of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Russell.
What I would hope that folks would take away and remember or feel from this evening is that I am passionate and that I have good, strong intentions of doing something good. I'd also like you to remember my boyish good looks. I will always act in the best interest of our community and our children. I will always be fiscally responsible. I will practice doing these things with logic, diplomacy, reason, respect, strong moral values, and common sense. And I'm humbly and gratefully asking for your vote next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Bryan.
I thank you, everybody, for today, and thanks, everybody, for coming. I think it's well known that I love this town. I might have mentioned it once or twice. I've been here for 30 years as well. I have been extremely active in this town, and I guess whether you agree or not with my record, let it stand where it may. I want to always honor and make Pelham proud decisions for this community, things that make sense in a big picture, right? I mentioned that already, not being penny wise and pound foolish. I've had some amazing experiences in this community, and I believe that you guys have had some amazing experiences in this community. I see a lot of faces that I see often, and it's because you care, and it's amazing what a group of people can do that work together to create something for the community. I was blown away when I first started doing things here. So many things are done by volunteers in this town. So many things. Things that are built, things that are made, things that are donated. It's incredible. And I'd like to continue to foster that spirit. Now, the Budget Committee is not really necessarily the place to foster that spirit. However, I think if we can work together and make Pelham proud decisions, that ruminates up, right? If people are happy and things are going well, that then fosters that spirit to continue to volunteer, to continue to contribute to your town. Hopefully, it will help young people contribute, continue to have the seniors contribute, all facets. It's very important to me that all facets of our community are involved, and we need young, middle, and old. We need everybody, so I'd like to continue to foster that, and I hope that my record in the past has shown you that that's the way that I think, and I'd like to continue to think, and that's why I humbly, it's the most humbling thing when you get elected. It blows your mind. So I do humbly ask you for your vote on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Brown, please.
hello. So thank you again for inviting me, and I apologize for being late. And I realize I'm asking people to take a chance on me, to somebody who has never run for office in this town before. So I'm gonna say that I endorsement from my son. He's 27 years old, and I told him I was running for budget committee. And he looked at me like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yes." And he took a breath and he said, "You always raised us to care about our community and the world. And he said, and this made, I was very happy. He said, I do believe you'd always make the best decision for this town. And that's my endorsement of myself, by my son. So I realize I'm asking people to take a chance on me, and that's what I am asking, for a chance to participate in the town and to learn. And thank you so much. And please consider voting for me, Lisa Brown.
And Mr. Gagnon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we've talked about a lot. You know my education, you know my background, so let me leave you, with the reasons for my drive. I'm the son of Paul and Yvonne. You may know them in town. They're longtime Pelham volunteers. I have large shoes to fill, and I want to fill those shoes. I want to make my parents proud, my family proud, and my community proud. And I'll leave you with that tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes the candidate part of the evening tonight. We are going to, in a minute or two, go over the warrant articles. I'm not going to ask Heather Abbott to come forward, but I would like to thank the candidates for their openness, first of all, for their dedication to the town and volunteering to run for these offices. You show that you love Pelham, and I, for one, no longer a senior, but an older adult. I appreciate that very much. So thank you. And I also appreciate the audience who was born with this old guy who has fumbled more than he's passed correctly in this part of the thing. And I thank you very much. And the people out there, if you're still watching me on TV, God bless you. Okay, Heather, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Heather Abbott from the Board of Selectmen. And
Charlene
Takesian. We're going to talk about the warrant articles.
Yeah, I try to be.
Will.
Okay. You can say if you want.
It's up to you.
Attention, we're going to be discussing reading the warrant articles right now, so please keep it down in the audience. Heather Abbott is now is going to be reading the warrant articles, so please quiet down. This candidate night is still going on without the candidates. We're going to be, talking. We're going to be reading the warrant articles. Heather Corbett and Charlene Takesian will be reading them. Town clerk.
You can't go commercial.
Okay, you can start, Heather. Just to start.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we realize we are the last things between you and supper, so we are going to make this as quick and painless as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, if you're going to remain, would you please take a seat? If you want to hold a conversation, please do it in the hall. I don't have my gavel.
Do you need a gavel? Oh, excellent. Do you want to go first? Go first. You do this.
Dave, can we start with, this is Dave
first.
Wilkerson.
Right.
We're going to start with the
Ladies and
school.
gentlemen, we're going to shift things a little bit. Mr. Wilkerson has just joined us. We're going to have him go through the school board's warrant articles first because he has a commitment. You're welcome.
Yep.
Have at it, sir.
You're on. You have 5 minutes. You got a mic.
Let's see if it works like this.
Oh, that's probably not going to work.
All right, Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Wilkerson.
I don't want to sit, but I will if I have to. Okay, I'll sit. I'm a stander, not a sitter. No, I'll sit, because you're all set up for that.
Who am I? Am I Brett Gagnon? It's exciting.
Okay, Mr. Wilkerson, we're all set.
Thank you very
You have
much.
the floor.
I'm just going to run through them really quick. But I'm going to, just putting it in my book and stuff. I'm sick of it.
Well, good evening to everyone who's here and who may be elsewhere. I'm Vice Chair of the Pelham School Board, and I'm pleased to be with you tonight. Troy Brissett, our Chair, has his son is in an important game tonight, and he wanted to travel with him, so You've got a poor substitute, but I hope I can manage the details adequately for your needs. This year, the school board is presenting two warrant articles, Articles 1 and 2. Article 1 pertains to the budget. Article 2 pertains to the proposed contract with our teachers union. And for those of you who were not able to attend the deliberative session where we shared most of the information that we had about the budget, which I'll address first and then take your questions, we gave an overview of the different categories and approaches to creating the budget that we have provided for you to consider at this year's meeting. The budget itself it's interesting because the single largest increase in our budget is $775,099 for special education, $750,000, and to me that's a lot of money. But that's money that we have to spend whether we wish to or not. It's not discretionary on our part. What I think is very interesting is that the overall increase in the budget is less than the increase in the special education items. In other words, if we stayed even with last year's dollars, the increase in this year's budget would have been greater, but we were able to manage some of our resources, defer some actions and such, in order to minimize that as much as possible. So, yeah, it's a 1.6 if I'm reading the numbers correctly, and I haven't put my glasses on yet. So it's a 1.6% increase over last year's budget. It is a very fiscally conservative budget. There's not a lot of fat in it. In fact, there's no fat in it. It's leaner than the leanest beef you can get. I'll put it that way. But we're very proud of the work we're doing. What do we do with that money? This year, the school district has had 3 district-wide goals, and they are to establish a strong culture of belonging, of making Pelham a great place to work, and finally, to improve the performance of our students in the area of math when compared to other districts in the state. This year, and somewhere in this document, it actually lists, I provides you a voter's guide, but in it, last year, we made some good progress in our goal regarding math, which is an area of particular interest to me. At the high school and at the elementary school, we've essentially achieved our goal of being above the 50% mark. In other words, we are above the proficient level with 50% of our students or something like that, whereas with the memorial school, the middle school, we have some more work to be done there, and that's our plan for this year. And if necessary, we'll extend it for another year, but it's a 3-year goal that we're working on. In terms of a culture of belonging, this year we had a task force, a diverse group of individuals in the district, do an analysis of what are the impediments of making life in our school district feel right, make you feel like you belong here. And they came back with a report this year, which was, it was hard. It was not what you want to hear. You want to hear it was just a wonderful place. We couldn't be happier. It is a wonderful place, but wow, we could be happier. And there are things, there are substantive things that we can do to make it a better place, a place where you really feel like you belong. So as recently as last night, the board met and we continued to discuss this particular goal. The superintendent returned with a report of an action plan wherein he intends to have some preliminary results by the end of the school year with an intention of taking the results of that and applying it to the next school year and the goal we develop from there. In terms of making Pelham a great place to work, I can only point to warrant article number 2. It's not to say that improving our contract in terms of the salaries that we offer to teachers, especially that middle range of teachers with more than 5 years experience, but not to say we don't care about the ones approaching retirement. We care enormously, but they're pretty well invested in us and they make a reasonable salary as far as we can see. But the ones in the middle are the ones we're losing. We're losing roughly 30 teachers per year. So let me put that in some human terms. If a teacher leaves a building at the end of the school year, then we have to find somebody to take their place. Sometimes that can be really tough, but we'll find someone. And when they take their place then, especially if it's a new teacher, a rookie we'll say, then it takes a lot of support from the principal and some of the other administrators to help that new individual become acclimated, and frankly, if they're new to teaching, develop the skills that are appropriate for the discipline of teaching. So that takes a lot of work on the part of a principal. And if you're losing on average 30 per year, even if it broke out to 10 per building, and I honestly don't know what the breakout is, that's a lot of work principals will expend in the course of a year that frankly, I would rather they paid attention to some other things other than breaking in new teachers on that base. So we feel that with improving our position in terms of financial compensation through the new contract that we're offering, we hope that you will approve, that we'll be able to staunch the bleeding, frankly. We have great teachers in our district, And nothing can be more disheartening than to see somebody come to Pelham, enjoy working here, begin to perform in a way that the students really appreciate their instruction, just in time to see them leave after about 5 years and go off and make somewhere between $3,000, $7,000, $10,000 more a year. And when you're trying to provide for your family, many couples are two-income families, that's a big number, and it's an important number. So in terms of our goals, goal number 2 being to make Pelham a great place to work, we feel that the warrant article number 2 for our teacher contract will be key to the success. In fact, if you asked me, I feel that of the warrant articles that we have before you, the one of utmost importance is the teacher contract. So, I suspect that we are entertaining questions.
No, actually, just kind of.
Oh, really?
Reading, just going through.
Look at me oddly if you think you have a question.
Yep, well, we will. A couple questions, sure.
I'm sorry?
Doesn't everyone look at you oddly?
Well, I'm oddly looking, but by the way, technically, I'm not supposed to be in my uniform, but I'm going to a scout meeting the instant I walk out of the room, and I wouldn't have time to go home and change, so I'm staying concealed because it's BSA policy.
Language to that and date and take off some language. So the added language on that would be multifamily, under that section 30713, and the change to this would also state that you cannot use wetlands as contiguous square footing for your septic loading calculations. So those were the two changes to that. And we had a 7-0 vote on that warrant, on that proposed zoning change. The Article 3 is in reference to the age restriction housing ordinance. As I stated earlier, the Pelham Planning Board came together, and based off the master plan findings, we said, hey, you know what, we've got to make sure we provide housing for these residents in our town. So with that, it is a age restrictive housing ordinance, and we're looking to put that back on the ballot in hopes of incorporating that back into our zoning. The last item is Article 4. And this really is just, so our zoning, it's section 30745, 30746, and section 30747. We just need to comply with the requirements for the National Flood Insurance Program. So we had FEMA, we had the state, come down and say, hey, Pelham Planning Board, can you update your stuff and be in compliance with our state standards? And simply, that's exactly what that is. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Article 5 is our Public Works and, the signs, let me just clear up the signs out there. I'll say vote yes on Article 5 to help the town employees. This does not help all the town employees. This helps the people at the transfer station, the highway department, and some of the office staff in the town hall. We negotiated a contract with them. It was a difficult negotiation, both sides having to give and take. What we did was we realigned the chart so that their step raises and their longevity raises are clearer to them, and we reallocated them into different positions so that the highway guys were equal with the transfer guys, and the office clerks were it's a really strange union because we have office clerks in with truck drivers, so it was kind of a hard contract to negotiate and hard to put the people in the proper category. But we did make progress with that. They are contributing more to their insurance, so they did get raises. Some got better raises than others. We tried to bring up the people that were on the low end of the scale to try to keep our employees. And the people that were on the higher end of the scale agreed to take less of a raise to give the money to the people on the lower end. So you can see in your voter's guide, it tells you the first year the contract costs us $142,000. The second year it's $122,000, but the accumulated cost for the 2 years is $265,000. 2026 it goes down to $98,000. You can see that we gave them, the first year we gave them money to bump them up to where they actually should be, to a fair wage. So the ultimate cost of the contract is $554,000 over a period of 5 years. Any questions? All right, I'm off.
You're off. Okay, so the next one is for the operating budget. Now, there has been a lot of talk this evening about budgets and increases, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to sort of flesh out the process, because I think there's a lot of talk about how we arrive at some of these numbers, and a lot of what's been thrown out, and a lot of things that have come across my desk and my email have been inaccurate. So I believe I did supply Mr. Greenwood with some slides back there, if he could cue those up. So, having a background in art, I went ahead and made you some very brief slides. Basically, this outlines the budget from 2023 to 2024, highlighting the increase. There is an increase. We absolutely know and acknowledge that, but this was the 2024 request. Now, before we get into this, I do want to talk about where those requests come from, and I'm really, really glad that Ms. Massey Quinn stayed with us, because I wanted to tip my cap to her, because a lot of the things we decide we're going to do come from a document called the Capital Improvement Plan. The town has decided to adopt this plan. It's not the master plan, this is something separate, but it's a way for us to categorize all the things that we need in town. Not right this second, but what we're going to need over the course of the next, do you want to say 10 to 15?
It's 10, yeah.
10 years.
7 to 10.
7 to 10, thank
Yeah.
you. See, I'm glad she stayed. But it goes through everything, all of our capital assets, the buildings, the cruisers, the fire trucks, everything. And it prioritizes things, and that is a document that tells the Board of Selectmen what's going to need to get done in any given year, and it helps us balance things so that we're not hyper-loading one year with a lot of expenses, causing our tax rate to fluctuate wildly. So we have a highly informed document that was created through the Capital Improvement Plan Committee that went through everything line by line. We don't pick these things arbitrarily. We don't spin a wheel